Today is the feast of the Holy Family, Cycle C. The first reading from the book of Sirach emphasizes the family as a special unit on which God bestows his blessings. It is not a group of individuals living together. A family should have an orderly structure. Respect and obedience to parents by sons and daughters are the most important elements. Children also have a duty to honor the parents by caring for them in their old age, especially when they become forgetful. The commandment to honor parents includes children to be respectful and care of their elderly parents. The welfare system does not exempt them from the responsibility of extra support. My son, quoting here from Sirach, take care of your father when he is old. Grieve him not as long as he lives. Even if his mind fails, be considerate of him. Revile him not all the days of his life. Kindness to a father will not be forgotten, firmly planted against the death of your sins. So kindness is part of, will help you if you have any penance to do. St. Paul stresses the need for commitment for every member of the family unit. He says, brothers and sisters, put on as God-chosen ones, holy and beloved, heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, bearing with one another and forgiving one another. If one has a grievance against another, as the Lord has forgiven you, so must you also do. And over all these, put on love. That is the bond of perfection. And remind you that these are people living in community. The care and love for each other in family ought to be the same for the whole community. The family unit is the building blocks of any society, any nation. The moral strength of a nation is measured by how well developed are the natural and supernatural bonds, supernatural built by God's graces of the family. The home is the primary place of formation, physically, mentally, and spiritually. One nation, our nation, is in trouble because our family is in trouble. Too many children are born outside of marriage and are therefore deprived of the nurturing of both a mother and a father. There's also divorce. Single fathers are not taking responsibility for the upkeep and nurturing of their children. 90% of men in prison have no relationship with their fathers. Crime and prison are not just related to behaviors of the children, but also has something to do with parenting. Single mothers, because of the lack of support from a husband, are forced into poverty. Overworked single parents cannot devote time to the physical, mental, and spiritual formation of their children. Movies and other forms of entertainment have reduced the sacred physical union of a man and a woman reserved for marriage to a mere act of selfish pleasure, or portrayed as an act of false love that does not require fidelity or commitment. The result of abusing what is sacred results in a lot of emotional damage and unwanted pregnancies. This often leads to the great sin of abortion and great psychological damage. Rather than address the moral issues, the leaders of our nation prefer to promote contraception and abortion. We cannot address symptoms of moral failings without attacking the root causes. We are refusing to acknowledge that many of our problems arise from moral deficiencies. Uncontrolled greed and corruption is a moral deficiency. While assault rifles facilitate mass murders and should be restricted, what are the elements of our culture that create this killer mindset? These killers appear to be morally deficient rather than mentally ill. Although disputed, there are claims that violent video games were originally developed by the military to desensitize soldiers to kill one another human beings, which is contrary to our basic human nature. There are other contributing factors, but at the end of the day, we have lost our sense of the sacredness of life. In the gospel, we see Joseph and Mary are responsible parents who each year made the long trip from Nazareth to Jerusalem for the feast of Passover, the feast on which Jesus would die. How many of us skip Mass for insignificant reasons, such as having visitors or the weather, it's raining too much? Joseph and Mary taught Jesus the importance of the fulfillment of sacred duties. On this trip, mentioned in the gospel, Jesus forgets to join his parents on their return trip. Why? He has just turned 12, completed his bar mitzvah, and was therefore considered an adult who could now converse with teachers in the temple. And this was so exciting for him. The important point made by Luke, the gospel writer, is that the relationship between God and Jesus and the temple. Jesus is in his Father's house. His true Father is God. In spite of his zeal for his Father's house, even Jesus had to learn to practice obedience to his parents. He went down from them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. As we celebrate Christmas, we're not celebrating material things, we're celebrating love. Love of family, love of community, love of employers, love of employees, etc. And even forgiveness for enemies, etc. Peace and joy comes from Jesus and not from material things.